Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Minneapolis Central City Tunnel System virtual public meeting. My name is Faith, and I am the communications and engagement consultant for this project. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. But before we start, I want to go through just Teams meeting and how it functions. So this is a live meeting. Participant will not be able to talk, speak through their microphones or turn on their cameras during the meeting. This live meeting will be recorded and will be posted on the project website after the meeting. You can also call in using your phone number. The phone number to call in is at 612-276-6670. The conference ID number is 884-718-817 and then pound. If you stay on the line, you'll get connected to the live meeting. If you have a hard time hearing, you can also adjust the volume on the bottom left corner of the screen, or you can turn on the live captioning on the bottom right corner of the screen. It has the double CC on the bottom right corner. If you have a question or comment during the presentation, please type them in the Q&A box on the bottom right corner. First, you will have to click on the purple button on the bottom left, or bottom right, sorry, and it will ask you to provide your name and your questions and comment. When you're ready to leave the live meeting, click on the leave button located on the upper right corner of your screen, and that will take you off of the meeting. So before we start, I just also want to say thank you again for attending and participating in the meeting. We will first go through some of the background information and then provide some information about the construction and then end it with Q&A. All right, Joe, I'm gonna pass this on to you.
All right. Well, I wanted to thank you, those who have joined us to talk about our upcoming stormwater project, which we call the Central City Parallel Storm Tunnel Project. My name is Joe Clava, and I've been working with the City of Minneapolis Sewer Department for over the last 10 years as a project engineer. And one of my responsibilities over that time has included inspecting and overseeing the repair and the rehabilitation of some of our storm tunnels. And I thought before we go into the specific project, I thought it might be a good idea to give a little background on our tunnels and our tunnel systems and what our problem is, why we're doing the project that we're doing. So as you can see on the slide here, it's hard to make out, but basically a lot of those colored lines that you see, other than the lakes and river, are storm tunnels that are owned either by the City of Minneapolis or MnDOT, or the Metropolitan Council has their own sewer pipes. And so there are a lot of tunnels underground. You obviously don't see them. You're not aware of them typically. Our geology in the area lends itself to be able to mine the sandstone bedrock down below, and so it makes for a good down to the
Joe, you're getting choppy.
Okay. Faith, are you able to go to the next slide?
Yes.
All right, so get there. So our project need, many of the city's tunnels were built in the 1880s, the 1930s, and 1940s, and at this time, when they were built, there was typically not as much concrete or asphalt roadways and sidewalks that we have today. So as back then, some of the precipitation could infiltrate into the ground, and the rest of the runoff was able to be handled and carried by the existing storm tunnels that Minneapolis owned. However, as our downtown has developed and we've begun to have capacity and conveyance problems in our downtown region, as many of the storm tunnels were beginning to be undersized by the development and the amount of water that they were now accepting. Next slide. So this visual shows you the basically most of the downtown region that's served by our what we call our Central City Tunnel system currently, and as you can see, it's draining a lot of the water from our main downtown area all the way to the old stadium, things like that. So it basically, with our increased rain events that we've had stormwater that's being conveyed quickly into our storm, and we're having a backup basically of our storm tunnels, creating head pressures and problems in our tunnel, not able to convey it to the river fast enough. Next slide.
Hey, Joe.
Yeah.
Ted suggested maybe shutting your camera off for better bandwidth so you're not choppy. You can give that a shot.
Okay. Yep. All right. So, pardon me for my choppiness. Bruce, if it keeps giving problems, you might have to take over a little bit on some of these slides. But this slide here shows basically our current existing downtown tunnel system, and in yellow, there's 4 main collector tunnels in our downtown, which are under Hennepin Avenue, Nicollet, Marquette, and 2nd Avenue, and these drain directly into our main tunnel on Washington Avenue there, that eventually then conveys all that water down to our outlet, which is on the right side there near our Stone Arch Bridge. Next slide. So here's a visualization of those 4 main tunnels that I was talking about under 2nd, Marquette, Nicollet, and Hennepin. Those are in a sense, the sizes are representative of each of those tunnels, and all 4 of those main tunnel systems are draining into our Washington Avenue tunnel, which you see below there. Obviously, you've got 4 relatively large tunnels draining into an insufficiently sized Washington Avenue tunnel. And so that is why we're experiencing the problems we're having. We're having a backup on our under our streets, under 2nd, Marquette, Nicollet, and Hennepin, as the Washington Avenue tunnel isn't able to convey that quantity of water into the river. Next slide. So the issue with our stormwater tunnel, like I said, is that our tunnels are backing up with water. As our tunnels and vertical shafts fill with water, it's creating what's called head pressure down in our tunnels. Water being incompressible can literally fracture the 12 inches of concrete tunnel liners that our tunnels were constructed with. Once the tunnel liners are fractured, water will force its way through the cracks or the holes that are created and act like a high pressure washer, which will erode the sandstone bedrock outside of the tunnel, and it causes basically a massive amount of loose sandstone to be mined and actually oftentimes fall back through those cracks in our tunnel system and pile up inside our tunnels, causing less capacity in our tunnel system and causing basically our maintenance of our tunnels, having to clean up that amount of sand and then repair our tunnels from the cracks or fractures that have happened in the tunnel system due to that high pressure. So next slide, please. And we'll have some pictures here that basically show what I'm talking about. So on the right side, there's a picture of our 12 inches of concrete tunnel liner, as we call it, and it's been fractured and broken up by the water pressure. And you can kind of see some of the basically loose sand or sandstone outside of that tunnel liner. The middle picture shows some of the sandstone that got eroded from above our tunnel system has fallen back into our tunnels, and we have to spend time cleaning that up for months, costing hundreds of thousands of dollars to clean that up and losing capacity. Like I explained, as you can see, that it's filling up a lot of our tunnel system. And then the picture on the left shows one of our workers. We actually cored a hole through our tunnel, one of our storm tunnels, to peek up outside of our tunnel, and you can see the void that has been created by some of these, our fractures and things, and that white rock there is really sandstone, and that gets eroded and jetted by the water pressure and then falls back down into our. Why don't you flip to the next slide? Just another picture on the left there is our fractures in some of our tunnels because of this high pressure. The picture on the right is then that in our tunnel right there, we're actually standing in this water pressure, and that sand that you see all around us is the amount of sandstone that has been loosened and is falling back into our tunnels. And then obviously we have to fill that huge void above our tunnels also. So it's a tremendous maintenance issue. It's high cost, and that's one of the reasons we have to go about helping alleviate this problem. Next slide. So our solution basically to the capacity problem is to create a new tunnel, what we call a parallel tunnel to our existing tunnel under Washington Avenue. That's not necessarily the scale, that new tunnel. It's actually much bigger than the existing. It's going to be much bigger, but basically it'll increase our ability to convey and bring that water quickly to the river, and thus alleviate pressure in the rest of our tunnel systems under 2nd Avenue, Marquette, Hennepin, and Nicollet. So the city has hired CNA, which is a local tunnel consulting firm, to help evaluate and design a solution that would make economic sense for the city with the greatest benefit of reducing pressures. And I'm going to let Bruce Wagner from CNA speak more about the project itself. And then after he's done speaking specifically about the project, we'll address any questions you might have and that hopefully you type in, and we'll answer them at the end of Bruce's session.
Hey, Joe, before you turn it over to Bruce, there is one question from the public. Maybe you can answer before you turn it over, and I'll read it to you. It says, will this project eliminate the horrid odor coming from the sewer grates along Washington Avenue near Zen Box, as well as the stagnant water at Mills Ruin Park?
Okay. Well, okay, good question. So our project, being that it's for a stormwater project, this will alleviate our stormwater issues. The sanitary sewer smells that you're smelling, likely by the Zen, is caused by the Met Council has a sanitary sewer interceptor, a large sewer interceptor at that location. And sometimes, depending on what the air pressure is like and if it's venting a little bit off of their sewer system, it will be noticeable at the street level because it travels a little bit, sometimes travels somewhat through our storm water system, the smell. So unfortunately, that won't be alleviated by this, our project. And as far as the stagnant water at the river, obviously, when we have large storm events, our tunnels drain quickly, and we don't have a lot of standing water. We don't have standing water in our tunnel system. So that typically would be caused, I would say, by the amount of water that the park board is putting through that little canal area that they oversee down by the Stone Arch Bridge. Bruce, do you have anything else to add to that?
Yeah, I'm assuming that the stagnant water is in the channel there down in Mill Roads Park, and yeah, that's controlled. The flow rate's controlled by the park board. That's not part of this project. Brent, give me a nod if you're hearing me. Okay. I'm Bruce Wagner with CNA Engineers, and project manager for the design. And I just want to walk through the construction, what we're going to be building and how and when and where. This is a map showing downtown Mississippi River on the north, the blue on the north. The existing tunnel, the existing Central City Tunnel is in the dark blue, runs from Hennepin Avenue over to Portland. Yep, and then it diagonals across over to Chicago and then out to the river where it discharges. The new tunnel will start at Nicollet Avenue. It's the green, the light green color, and run to Chicago Avenue, and it'll be running parallel where there's two, the blue and the green line are together in Washington, and there'll be parallel tunnels like Joe's slide showed. But then when we get to Chicago and head out to the river, we're going to be enlarging an existing tunnels there. And then at the river, we'll be building a new outlet structure. To access the construction to get into the deep tunnel, there'll be 4 main access points. The first one shown in orange at 2nd Avenue, that's going to be the main construction access for a lot of the tunnel. It'll be a new 12-foot diameter shaft built there. At Hennepin Avenue, there's an existing shaft. That's an 8-foot diameter shaft down into the system that'll be used for access. And then at Portland Avenue, there's a shaft in the street that will also be used for access. And then another drive-in access down at the river. They can, instead of being a vertical access, they'll be able to drive in at the river location. The tunnel is total length of the new tunnel is about 4,200 feet. Next slide. This is a similar slide, but we added the tunnel profile on the bottom. You can see where we are. We're down in the buff-colored sandstone. We have a limestone, flat-fill limestone layer above us, and then a layer of soil or overburden above that. We're roughly 78 to 80 feet below the ground surface. I don't have a slide showing tunnel cross-section, but the new tunnel will be 8.5 to 16 feet tall, depending on where you are. And you can see the change in height and the white tunnel profile on the bottom. Jumping to the next slide. Talking now about the river portal site. The Mississippi River's in the north in the dark blue in that photo. That you can see the Mill Ruins Channel on the left side. The red dashed line is the work site that will be have a site fence around it for access. The road and the parking lot down in the park will be closed from the start of construction, which is roughly September, through the spring of 22. It'll open back up again for summer months, and I'll get more in the schedule there. But basically, in the summer, that road is open. The parking lot will be open. In the winter, fall and winter, it will be closed. The trail coming down the hill, which that trail will remain closed for the duration of construction, but the trail that just right there, a little to the right, the curved one coming down the hill, that one will be open in the summer again. The construction, there'll be dams built in the Mill Ruins Channel in the kind of yellow hatched area to dry that up to keep the river out and the flow in the channel out. And then there'll be an open cut excavation open to the sky in the light blue hatched area in there. And then the tunnel itself on the bottom of that light blue hatch will be mined underground, heading south towards Washington Avenue along the Chicago Avenue alignment. By the way, to orient a little more, I should have said earlier that Guthrie is in this, you can see the endless bridge on the right there next to the word, yep, in there. Anything else? There will be the truck access will be through the roadway to the east. They'll go under the Stone Arch Bridge. That's just off to the left side of the picture. And the site will be, construction will be going on here 24 hours a day. go to the next slide. This is just a picture looking up the existing tunnel outlet where the new tunnel will outlet into the channel. The red area is roughly what will be excavated in the open cut for access. You can get an idea of what kind of trees will be removed in that red area. They're lesser trees, and the slope will be restored and replanted at the end of construction. Let's go to the next one. This is the access on our work sites on 2nd Avenue. The rivers to the north are off the top of the page. We're going to be building a new shaft there. Yep, right there, new shaft. That's the 12-foot shaft. There'll be a tunnel from there out towards Washington Avenue to connect with the main new parallel tunnel. The work site that's hatched there in the red crosshatch pattern in both areas will be fenced off with a noise barrier and some screening with some graphics on it. We're going to maintain one traffic in both directions, one lane in both directions, as shown by the red arrows. The bus stop, there's 2 bus stops on the west side of the road, which are in the work site areas. It's going to be consolidated into one bus stop between the 2 work sites. The bus stops on the east side of the road will remain. Anything else I wanted to say there? These work sites will be 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 on Saturday. The work site on north of 2nd Street is just a staging area to find some laydown space. There isn't actually any construction going on there. It'll just be storage and laydown area for a contractor. Next slide. This is a project that was done a couple years ago at Marquette on 4th Street near Marquette. Just to give you an idea of shaft construction, they're lowering in the 8-foot diameter shaft liner. In that area, some of you might have seen that when that was being built. It'd be similar. It'll look similar to this, except our site will be fenced off and screened up to 9 or 10 feet. Next slide. So this is Portland Avenue at Washington Avenue, the river again, so to the top of the slide. The red hatched area is going to be site fenced off with screening and a noise barrier on the north side of that. We're maintaining 2 lanes of traffic on the westbound Washington Avenue. The bike lane and the parking meters will be closed in the hatched area. And again, this is a 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 Saturday work site. Next slide. Now we're down at Hennepin Avenue in Washington. Again, the river's to the top. There's an existing shaft there that will be used for access. The work site will be all on sidewalk. The bike lane and the traffic lanes will remain open. Again, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 on Saturday. And all these sites, they'll have a crane to lower materials, equipment, personnel down the shafts. There'll be trucks going in and out. The bigger shaft on 2nd, more in Portland, they'll be hauling sand when they're mining the sandstone. We think up to 20 or so dump trucks a day when they're going full bore. Next slide. In addition to the work sites that we've just been talking about, there's going to be up to 10 dewatering wells. We're roughly 10 to 15 feet at the wettest 10 to 15 above the tunnel, 10 to 15 feet above the tunnel floor, the groundwater table and the sandstone. So we have to lower that so we can do dry construction. There's 10 wells shown here. We anticipate 5 for sure, and then supplemented as needed. The 5 are at Nicollet, 2nd, 4th, Portland, and Chicago. And then the others will be put in as needed. Those are each preliminary indications are they will take 2 to 3 weeks each to install. So there'll be a drill rig set up to drill those wells for 2 to 3 weeks at each one of those sites. Next slide.
Hey, Bruce,
Yep.
before you go to the next slide, back up one.
Yep.
Someone asked a question, and you can show it pretty easily on this graphic. The question is, what happens to the existing tunnel once the new one is in place?
So the existing tunnel will still stay in service. So if it's, if the city has been repairing that over the last few years, and it'll remain in service, so it enhances the capacity of the whole new system. So that we're not going to have slides showing the detail, but there's junction structures where the new and existing cross and can connect to existing tunnels and Marquette and 2nd and so forth.
But a portion of the tunnel will be demolished, and a larger tunnel will happen near the river.
Yeah, so on Chicago, that like so the dark blue, basically what's in dark blue line, that remains in service. The green is parallel, and then when you get to Chicago, we are removing and enlarging tunnel, and then the light blue out to the river also. Okay. Next slide. This is a photo of a dewatering well that was at Portland in Washington for previous tunnel for both the Met. I can't remember if this was put in for the Met Council interceptor sewer or for the city project to enhance the flow there in the past, but gives you a feel for what a dewatering well site will look like. And they're electric. They're pretty quiet. The water will come up and then be discharged back into actually in the storm sewer. So when we're working in the storm sewer, there'll be the additional flow from the dewatering wells. Next slide. Some groundwater contamination has been identified at Nicollet Avenue and then down at the river portal. So I threw this slide in here. This is Nicollet Avenue. The river is now to the left on this slide. Washington Avenue is the main road there. The sidewalk on the east side of Nicollet will be closed. There'll be groundwater treatment system set up there. See. Next slide. To talk about the schedule for the project. So dewatering wells, first line, dewatering wells being installed this fall into winter. The 2nd Avenue shaft, the vertical shaft, we built this fall, September through November. And then they'll be working from the 2nd Avenue shaft and the Portland shaft and the Hennepin Avenue shaft from November of this year through the spring of 2023. The open cut outlet excavation, they'll do the current plan is to do a small excavation at the river to provide access into the tunnel September and October of this year, and then finishing that off in 2022 December, and then through May of 2023, and then restoration May, June of 2023. And that's it.
Hey, Bruce, there's one more question. If Faith can flip up the map that shows the tunnel, show the map of the tunnel from beginning to end, Faith. And the question is,
That'll work.
Do you anticipate noticeable noise or vibrations specifically at the North Star lofts at Portland and Second? So if you could point that out, Faith, Portland and Second. Put your cursor over there and then Bruce or Joe can answer it.
We're talking about Portland Avenue and Second Street.
Yeah, it says Portland and Second. So I take it it's, yeah, right there on Portland Avenue and kind of away from us.
It's a block off of our construction, so it really is. It's a block away from the construction, so not much noticeable there. For understanding the question, the tunnel, the actual tunneling will be, you won't know what's going on. What you will see is trucks, which you do, you'll see trucks, you'll see a crane, stuff moving around on the surface in the work sites. But the very short period of time, couple months to drill the shaft. It's not a very loud operation. They're going to do a cord type shaft, which is not a very loud operation at the shaft on Second Avenue. So the kind of things you'll see.
Okay, and then there's another question. What will happen to all that sandstone that's removed? You want to answer that, Bruce, or I can?
Sure, you can answer it.
Well, it'll be hauled away off-site and disposed of. They'll either put it in a landfill, otherwise they can use it for certain areas where they need backfill for other projects. They'll reuse that sandstone sometimes. So that's what'll happen. It'll be removed from this site and disposed of or used as backfill properly. Let's see if we got any more. Another one. Any impacts on the farmers market and the Guthrie, especially on the Chicago Mall between Second and the River Road? You can kind of highlight that with the cursor again, Faith. So any impacts on farmers market and the Guthrie, especially on the Chicago Mall between Second and River Road?
So the impact there will be to install the dewatering well, which is a 2 to 3 week process. We don't have I don't have a slide right now that shows specifically where that is. See if I can, on my other screen.
I believe it's on the south side of what would it be? Second, isn't that correct, Bruce?
Yeah, I believe so.
So it's not going to be on the Chicago Mall. It's not going to be on the mall area on the Guthrie side.
Right. Yeah, that's right, Joe.
But once it's installed, it will be similar to that picture that Bruce showed you of a dewatering well with a chain link fence around it and a fairly minimal impact visually and things, and certainly noise wise also. It's not a noisy operation.
I do not see any other questions at this time.
There's another one coming.
Now there is another question. The next question is July 2020 presentation had dewatering wells on the southwest corner. She must have been talking about our last figure. If you could flip that one up, Faith. So
yeah, so that well there at Chicago should be on the southeast corner. I mean, the southeast corner is where it's currently planned to be. So it'll be there. So that the figure is doesn't have it in the right spot. I'm looking at the construction drawings on my other screen, and it's on that southeast corner.
Right. This person was asking and said it used to be on the southwest corner and now it's going to be on the southeast corner is the answer then, okay?
Yeah.
I don't see any other questions at this time. Every time I say that, then there's another one. All
There are
right.
2 more coming.
All right. So the question is, so if it's in the southeast corner, that will impact the farmer's market going forward? That's a question.
So the farm face, can you point to where the farmer's market is? Basically under the light blue line, right? Blue line, right? And the well will be next to the dark blue line across the street, south side of the street, north being up on this map.
Yeah, go to the right, I think, Faith.
So east of Chicago and south of 2nd Street.
Yeah, north, yeah, right, yep, in there. And again, this is one of the so there's 5 wells that will be installed, and this is one of the contingency wells that will be installed if needed. So there's a chance it won't go in at all. Then it's dependent on how effective the dewatering is with the 5 wells that are going to be installed first.
Okay, same area, a little different question. It says the market uses the sidewalk area from 2nd to Washington as well.
Okay.
So
that'll have to be coordinated so that the well's not being drilled when the farmer's market's going on, but it will be there operating in the sidewalk. So I think that's a coordination issue. If that well is chosen to be drilled, we'll coordinate with the farmer's market.
Yeah, we'll take note of that, and like Bruce said, we'll coordinate with whoever is overseeing that farmer's market.
Next question is the end date is June 2023 for the access point at Washington and 2nd Avenue. So I guess you could flip our schedule up, Faith. So yeah, that's our end date. Well, a little bit sooner, May.
Yeah, up to June. Yeah. One thing I didn't mention, I should have. You can see the gap in the bars for the excavated line tunnel from the outlet. That's because we can't be in active storm sewer in the summer. So when the portal worksite will not be utilized in the summer.
And then people are thanking you for the presentation and input. Not questions though.
Okay.
Another question came in. Are the dewatering wells temporary or permanent?
Temporary in that we use during construction, and they'll be removed and abandoned at the end of construction. Exactly when they'd be running for significant duration, 21 through 2023, dependent on the contractor's schedule, and how he goes about his sequencing, but basically running from fall of 2021 till spring of 2023, and then abandoned. Sealed, I guess, maybe a better word.
All right, we have about 9 more minutes. Are there any last questions or any thoughts from the public? And are there any last thoughts from the staff as well in terms of information? Actually, I guess.
Well, I see there's another question, Faith. All right, I'll keep the schedule up. Let's see here. This one a little more complicated. Says, how many weeks will the trucks be hauling out the sand at 20 trucks per day? Estimate.
So looking at the schedule there on that line, excavating line tunnel from Washington access points, there'll be trucks hauling in that period of time, but not all the time. Some of that, they're removing sand, but they're also lining the tunnel with concrete. So the 20 estimate, kind of a big day is removing sandstone that's being excavated. There'll also be concrete trucks. So without having the contractor on board yet exactly when that'll happen, it's not clear at this point, but basically on that gray bar there, there'll be trucks moving in and out of the work sites on the Washington Avenue access points. And similarly on the bar below that for the portal, on where there's bars at the portal, you can expect excavate line tunnel from outlet. There'll be trucks moving in and out during that time also.
But the point is too, you're at 20 trucks a day. That isn't a lot necessarily. It won't be 20 trucks every day excavating and removing that sand, and it's not a lot of trucks at any of the sites in a given day. 20 would probably be tops, most likely, if they were just excavating. Is that right, Bruce?
Yeah, and it's a little more complicated because if he stockpiles the sand, if it's find enough room on the work site to create a stockpile, and then he would do all his hauling. Not all, a lot of hauling on different days. Hauling a lot on some days and less on others. And that's the contractor's needs and methods and how they would attack that.
So another question came in. It said, what is the construction cost?
Joe, do you want to take that one?
Sure. So the overall construction bid was approximately, I believe, $57 million, and that has some contingencies in it, so it may not very time-consuming, difficult to mine 70-80 feet down. So it's just it's the largest project we've had for our sewer department, but very necessary for increasing our capacity.
All
Yeah,
right.
You broke up a little bit there, Joe, but his answer was 57 million, and the project were new and repairs almost a mile long, just for reference for people out there.
All right. Any other questions or thoughts before we end the presentation here? All right. During the project, we will stay engaged with the community, with the public, and so we have the, in order to stay informed and engage in the project, we have the email, a project email, where you can provide comments or edits, comments or questions, and we also have a project phone number, 612-888-9418 if you have any questions regarding construction or the project. We also have the website to sign up for project updates as well. So with that, I just want to end it and say thank you all for coming and joining us this evening for our virtual public meeting. We appreciate the questions, and again, if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to contact us through the email, phone number, or website.
There is one more question if you want to take it.
Yeah, I'll take it.
It's a easy one. Will truckload only happen during daylight hours? Supposed to
So,
get dark at 5 in the winter though, Bruce.
yeah, so the sites on Washington Avenue, they'll be working 7 to 7 a.m., 7 p.m. But at the portal, they're going to work 24 hours, and I'm not sure if the contractor is going to haul. I'd be unlikely that they would haul material at night. I think they would do most of that during the day. However, that's his prerogative if he wants to have dump trucks and concrete trucks running at night. Typically not. I think they'd probably save that for the day, working out from the portal from the river, but it's possible.
But certainly, we're going to work with the contractor to minimize any noise or other disruptions, if at all possible. And so it's something we're very aware of and want to try to minimize any noise disruptions for the public.
Yeah, and not working next summer down at the portal will eliminate truck traffic summertime down there.
We do have one more clarification question come through. It says, not sure I understood the hours at this site. Please clarify.
So Faith, can you show the map again?
Yes.
So so at the river site, if you could point to that.
Probably a different map, isn't there, Bruce?
Yeah, I wanted beginning would be better. Yeah, this one, this one's fine. So the purple dot by the river, you could point to that, Faith. That's that site down there, 24 hours a day. The other main access from the surface are the purple and orange dots on Washington Avenue. That's 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, and 9 to 5 on Saturdays.
So
And
Bruce,
again,
just to-
I'm sorry. Again, the portal site at the river, that will not be year round. That will be predominantly winter, November to April months.
There will be some site prep and things down there, fencing this fall.
Bruce, can you clarify one more time the time? You said 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. for these sites on Washington Avenue, Monday to Friday, correct?
Yep, and 9 to 5 Saturday.
Could you guys address the comments about Washington Avenue and 2nd Avenue South?
I didn't catch that. What was that?
There was a question about Washington Avenue and 2nd Avenue South, the noise in the barrier there near the condominium.
Yeah, so there'll be a 9 or 10 foot fence built around with a noise wall attached to it. There'll be a crane operating, lifting personnel equipment up and down for most of the work there. For the first few months, they'll be constructing that shaft there. So there'll be a drill rig there constructing the shaft. They'll be loading sand on trucks in that area. They'll be probably pumping concrete. There'll be concrete trucks there pumping concrete down the shaft.
All right, we'll take in one more question. If we don't have any questions, then we'll end the live meeting. All right, it doesn't look like there are any questions coming in at this time. Again, I just want to thank everyone for joining us this evening. If you have any questions or comments, you feel free to contact us through the project website or contact us via the project phone number and the project email. Thank you and have a good night.
Thanks, everybody.